God, haven't I had enough? God, my God, I don't think I can handle this one. Mom, talk to me. Blessing, your husband, Michael, is your brother. What? Your elder brother, Blessing. Your elder brother. What are you saying, Mom? I don't understand. Mom. Your elder brother, Blessing. Your elder brother. Mom, talk to us. We don't understand.
To understand.
I never imagined one decision I made as a desperate 20-year-old would change so many lives.
Everyone makes choices they are not proud of, but most never face them again. Mercy Jombo made hers at the age of 20, frightened, alone, and convinced she had no other option. She spent the next 30 years building a life tall enough to cast a shadow over it. She almost succeeded. What she could not have known then was that some things buried do not stay buried. Fate has a long memory. The past, when it finally returns, does not knock, it walks straight through the door. This is the story of a woman who thought she had outrun her yesterday. She was wrong. Very wrong. But to understand how it all unraveled, you have to go back. Back 30 years. Back past the wedding, past the tears, past the confession that shattered everything. Back to before Mercy Jombo was a wife, a mother, or a nurse. Back to when she was simply a girl, 18 years old, standing at a graveside, watching her parents, the last two people who had ever truly loved her, being lowered into the ground. She didn't know it then, but that was the moment everything began. Not the grief. Not even the loss. But what came after. Mercy didn't have time to grieve properly. She didn't have the luxury. Because when the funeral was over, she had nowhere to go. Her elder sister Amora took her in. Amora had a husband, Frank. 2 children. A home. To Mercy, that was enough. More than enough. They were the only family she had left, and she held on to that quietly, the way you hold something you're afraid to lose. She tried to make herself useful. She cooked. She cleaned. She watched the children so Amora could rest. She wasn't doing it to repay a debt. She was doing it because she needed to feel like she had a place in the world again. For a while, it felt like she did. Then small things started to happen. Nothing she could point to clearly. A look from Frank that stayed a little too long. A comment he made that felt slightly off. A moment where he stood too close. An awkward touch that he brushed off like it meant nothing. And something in her stomach tightened. She didn't say anything. Frank was her brother-in-law. He was Amora's husband. She told herself she was reading too much into things. She didn't want to cause trouble in the one home she had left. Then one evening, after dinner, Frank offered her a glass of wine. She took it. There was no reason not to. But a few minutes later, something felt wrong. Her body felt heavy in a way it shouldn't. Her vision started to blur. She tried to get up. She couldn't. And then everything went dark. When she woke up the next morning, something felt wrong. She tried to push the feeling aside, to convince herself that nothing had happened. But then her body began to change. The nausea, the exhaustion, the missed cycle. Eventually, there was no denying it. She was pregnant. She had never been with any man. She kept silent for weeks. Who would believe her? Frank was respected. Amora loved him. And Mercy was just the grieving younger sister who had nowhere else to go. When she finally told Amora what had happened, Amora didn't believe her. Not for a second. Frank denied everything.
The day my sister, Amara, stopped believing me, I felt completely alone.
Frank denied everything, calmly, confidently, without a single moment of hesitation. And the more he denied it, the more invisible Mercy felt. She stopped going to school. She stopped talking to friends. She spent her days crying in private and wondering how everything had fallen apart so fast. Then one day, a friend came looking for her. Her name was Angela. When Angela saw her, she knew immediately that something was wrong. She kept asking questions. And eventually, Mercy broke down and told her everything. She expected shock. She expected judgment. Instead, Angela cried. Not because she doubted her, but because she finally understood how much pain Mercy had been carrying alone. Then she stayed. She listened. And she promised Mercy she wouldn't face it by herself. A few days later, Angela returned, this time with a woman from a church outreach program. For the first time in months, someone listened to Mercy's story without interrupting her, without accusing her, without blaming her. When she finished speaking, they said something she desperately needed to hear. You are not alone. She was moved to a safe house run by the church. For the first time in a long while, she could breathe again. The women there didn't define her by what had happened to her. They simply helped her focus on getting through each day. Then the day came. The day she gave birth. She still remembers hearing his first cry. She remembers holding him, studying every detail of his face, his tiny fingers, his eyes, his little nose. He had a small black birthmark on his right shoulder, just like her father. She named him Stanley, after the man she had lost, the man she wished could have been there. But reality was waiting. She was 20 years old. No income, no family support. No clear path forward. The church wanted to help her continue her education. They believed she still had a future. And so, after many nights of crying and praying and searching for another way, she made the most painful decision of her life. She took Stanley to the church's motherless babies' home. She told herself it was temporary. She told herself she would come back for him. But when the day came to leave him, she held him tightly. She kissed his forehead. She whispered a prayer over him. And then she handed him over and walked away. Every step felt heavier than the last. She cried harder that day than she had ever cried in her life. Because for the second time, she had lost someone she loved. But life kept moving. Even when her heart wasn't ready. The church kept their promise. She studied hard. Harder than she ever had. Because she had been given a second chance, and she refused to waste it. Years later, she qualified as a nurse. The same girl who once thought her future was over was now helping other people heal. Then she met James. A quiet, kind man who made her feel calm just by being around him. He treated her with respect. He listened when she spoke. And little by little, he helped her believe that happiness was still possible. They got married. And for the first time in many years, she felt like she had a real family again. They had 2 daughters. The first they named Blessing, because that was exactly what she felt like. The second they named Angela, after the friend who had stood by her when everyone else walked away. Their home was full of laughter. The girls were close. Very close. Blessing was the quiet one, focused, disciplined, always planning ahead. Angela was her complete opposite, lively, playful, and always making people laugh, just like Mercy's friend after whom she was named. Watching them grow brought Mercy a joy she never knew she was capable of feeling. But there was one thing she never told them. One thing she never told James. Stanley, the son she had left behind. Sometimes she thought about him, especially on birthdays. She would wonder where he was. Whether he was healthy. Whether he was happy. But as the years passed, those thoughts came less often. Not because she stopped loving him, but because life kept moving. And she told herself he had his own life now, his own family, his own future. So she buried it. And the secret remained buried. Year after year, decade after decade, until the day Blessing came home from Abuja and started talking about a man, Michael. He worked in the office Blessing was doing her NYSC. Blessing couldn't stop smiling when she talked about him. At first, Mercy teased her the way mothers do. But eventually, Blessing admitted the truth, they were becoming close. Very close. Michael was intelligent, hardworking, respectful. When he came to the house for the first time, the whole family liked him immediately. He was soft-spoken, confident without being arrogant. He treated Blessing well. At some point during the evening, he laughed at something James said. And Mercy found herself smiling too. Michael's smile, laughter, and charisma were much like her father's. She told herself people often look alike. As months passed, Michael became a regular presence. He spent holidays with them, attended family gatherings, shared meals at their table. He called Mercy Mum without hesitation. And each time he did, something inside her tightened. Something she still couldn't name. Then one evening, they came to the family with news they were both struggling to hide behind nervous smiles. They were engaged. James was excited. Angela screamed. The whole house celebrated. And Mercy celebrated too. At least on the outside. During the wedding preparations, she learned more about Michael's background. He had no parents. At least, none he could identify. The woman who raised him was called Mama Sarah. She had adopted him when he was very young and loved him fiercely. She named him Michael after her elder brother. Michael used her surname. Mama Sarah never had a husband. No other children. Mama Sarah died when Michael was only 12. After that, Mama Sarah's younger sister's family took him in. They already had children of their own, but they treated him like one of theirs. Michael had grown up loved. And because of that, he had never spent much time searching for answers about where he came from. As Michael spoke about his life that evening, something stirred inside Mercy. Something she hadn't felt in years. For the first time in decades, she found herself thinking about Stanley. She pushed the thought away immediately. She smiled. She finished dinner. She said nothing. The wedding was beautiful. Everyone said so. Blessing was happy. That was what mattered most. Life settled after the wedding. Michael visited often. He joked with Angela. He talked with James. Everything looked exactly as it should. Until Blessing began having complications with pregnancy. Among the tests the doctor recommended was a genetic compatibility test. No one thought much of it. Until the results came back. The doctor requested a second test. Then a third. And finally, a fourth confirmation. Only then did he look at them carefully and say the words that shattered everything. There is a strong biological link between Michael and Blessing's family line. They laughed nervously. It had to be a mistake. A lab error. But the doctor didn't laugh. He only said it again, slower this time. It's a close biological relationship. Full DNA testing was ordered. The waiting days felt endless. Mercy barely slept. Barely ate. She went to Joe's where the motherless baby's home was. No more realistic record. She kept replaying every memory she had pushed away. Then the results came. The doctor didn't need to say a word. Michael and Blessing shared a direct biological connection. Memories started coming back. At home, Mercy asked Michael to show her his left shoulder. The moment he did, her hands began to shake. A small black birthmark. just like the one she had noticed the day she held her son for the first time. Michael wasn't just her daughter's husband. He was Stanley, her son. And Blessing was his sister. Mercy let out a piercing cry. Blessing rushed to hold her, while a stunned Michael stood frozen, too confused to move or speak. After confessing the truth to her children, the room dissolved into chaos. Then everything went dark. The last thing she remembered was someone desperately calling her name. When she woke up in a hospital bed, the doctors said she had collapsed from shock. But it wasn't shock. It was the weight of a secret that had finally caught up with her. As she stared at the ceiling, only one thought remained. How was she supposed to live with what she had just discovered? She had survived losing her parents. She had survived what Frank did to her. She had survived leaving her son behind. She had rebuilt her life from nothing, quietly, painfully. But life kept one more blow waiting for her. The most painful. The story is not over yet. There are still questions that haven't been answered. There are still people whose lives will never be the same. If this story moved you, if it made you feel something, leave a comment below and tell me what's going through your mind now. I will read every single one. And if you're new here and you want to follow Mercy's story wherever it leads, subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss what comes next. Because what happens next changes everything all over again. Thanks for watching.